It's Mark Eisler back with you again, and looks like I have my own theme song now. I like that, Sean. They play it every time. Sean, he didn't come in last Monday. You heard I was going to be here. So, I'll take a break. Mark can call it in, whatever. Anyway, it's Mark Eisler back with you again, filling in for Dennis Prager in my 13th year, and always a privilege. Dennis is not feeling well today, perhaps the after effects of a long trip to Hungary. I don't know how he does it. He said it last week, too, and he's done this for years. He doesn't get jet lag, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with this guy? He doesn't get jet lag. I take a little flight, and I get it. But I think it caught up to him this time. As always, you can reach me at 1-8-Prager-776. Obviously, today's top story is Afghanistan and the overrunning of the country by the Taliban. This probably makes many of us think, what you did to me right away, of South Vietnam. Where, do you remember that? Desperate Vietnamese were trying to flee to the last helicopter leaving from Saigon. I can still see that. It's heartbreaking. And we never seem to learn our lesson. And President Biden, that's what I call him now, was there all those many years ago, too. I agree with Dennis that we couldn't afford to leave, and you can let me know what you think, 1-8-Prager-776. We should have kept some troops there to make sure this disaster did not happen again. But a disaster it is. For those who gave their lives and their service all these many years, actually I shouldn't just say years, many years, for the Afghanistan citizens who will be subject to the rule and retribution, no doubt, of these monsters. To those who sided with us in any way, who will meet very uncertain fates. How would you like to be in Afghanistan now and they hunt you down and search for you because of your involvement in supporting the United States? To the reputation of our country, even of the weapons we lost. What did I read? Did you see that, Sean? There are more helicopters that they captured or equipment than tons of countries even have. This is an utter failure and also sends a message of lack of American will and leadership. It's an unmitigated disaster that could have been averted. President Trump made it clear that he would never have tolerated the Taliban taking over in this manner. He would have ordered, I believe this for sure, he would have ordered the full power of our military to make sure we didn't flee from Afghanistan with the Taliban threatening our troops. Where was the planning? Where was the orderly transition? If that was what your policy entailed. And then, unfortunately, I saw this a few days ago. The spokesman for the Defense Department, I think that's who he was. I saw him a couple of days ago. And I remembered this guy, don't ask me his name, from the Obama years. And I thought, uh-oh, here we go. The same apologist saying that the Taliban would have to answer to the international community if they didn't act responsibly. When he said that, I thought he must be joking. Tyrants will care about what the international community thinks? Did he really believe what he was saying? That's what Dennis often gets into with the left. Do they really believe this stuff? Or like automatons, or whatever you want to call them, robots. They just do it anyway. And did the press ask him what he was thinking? Something like, I don't know, do you seriously, they would never do that. I would do this. Do you seriously believe what you were saying? They should have asked. And what happens, they should have asked him, they didn't, if they do overrun the country? None of that was asked. But don't worry. The White House says President Biden, and there I called him president. Some guy picked on me on Facebook. Oh, you got to treat him with respect and call him President Biden, just like we did with Bush, who I didn't vote for, the guy said, and whoever else he mentioned. Except then I asked him, I said, what if someone stole your house, and then would you refer to them as the homeowner? I mean, I don't know what he answered. I had to get going. But you remember from the past, I've been on the air and I mentioned 23 anomalies that would have had to happen for President Trump to lose at least the Electoral College. So I'm convinced this was a theft of the presidency. So in the next few days, they say he's going to come out and make a statement. The next few days? He's supposed to be a leader the next few days. Mr. Biden, give up your vacation. Give the American people some hope, if possible. Take some responsibility. if that is possible. Even if you read from notes written out by one of your aides. Well, hopefully not by your Secretary of State, who claimed on at least one of the Sunday shows this was not another Saigon moment. Really, this is not another Saigon moment. Did he explain? Did he, I don't even know who it was, on Meet the Press or whatever it was, did they follow up and say, what do you mean it's not another Saigon? Of course they wouldn't do that. And you remember the Secretary of State? I can't think his, I can almost come out with it. I don't want to mess it up. Do you remember him? At the very beginning, he kneeled down before the Communist Chinese. Well, not literally, but he was in apologetic mode, whatever, I don't remember what they accused the United States of, what they said about us. That's who's representing what's going on now, that this is not a Saigon moment. Ronald Reagan would have already spoken to the American people and admitted his mistake. The press would be screaming at President Trump. Can you imagine this? What a disaster he was overseeing. And that he should resign. They would be saying that. And the Democrats, the Anthony Blinken thing, I don't want to blink on that, Sean. Just Anthony Blinken, a genius. And the Democrats, you know I'm right about this, would be impeaching President Trump for the third time. Did they only do it 2 times? I can't keep count anymore. It would be his 3rd time they'd be impeaching him. And remember General Mark Milley. Do I have his name right? I think that's the guy. He's more concerned with reading about critical race theory than managing the crisis or preparing in advance. What are you doing to our great fighting forces, one should ask him. Worried about whether everybody's politically correct? And did you notice their excuses? They were committed to the Trump plan. This one's hysterical. You mean like they were committed to Trump's border plan? Or the pipeline? Or the Iran deal? It's all very hard to watch. It is a scar on America. I always worried, and I've said this to you over the years, more about Biden's foreign policy, or whoever's calling the shots, than even his policies at home. No matter how bad they may be, because our enemies will prey on weakness. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. Wait, we haven't seen it all. And by the way, how would you like to be living in Taiwan now, or in any other vulnerable countries around the world? I can't, as a talk show host, I have to do this. I watch CNN. Even CNN gets some of it. They mention the hangings and rapes yet to come. And they even had a report on thousands of aid workers and staff hunkered down, not knowing their fate. And Sean, you got to hear this. This one's more than depressing. It was an aid worker, not on our side. I mean, we probably worked for all of them. They were sending goodbye notes knowing they would die. Can you imagine that? This is what we've done. Saying, and Sean is so good, he was on with Tapper, Blinken.
With one mission, and that mission was to deal with the folks who attacked us on 9/11.
Okay, but these folks were saying, your government is killing us. That's the guy, part of the government that's killing them. The president of Afghanistan has fled. The embassy is burning paperwork. This is not Saigon? Doesn't that sound familiar? Helicopters and drones and countless other military equipment has been captured. How can we watch all of this? What has become of the beacon of freedom and hope? I never thought it would get this bad this quickly. But hey, you guys, no more disagreeable tweets to listen to. That's what you objected to. Actually, you got more than you might have bargained for. No America First to listen to anymore. No America Great Again to listen to. How do you like this, Trump haters? Especially the likes of Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney. And I didn't even mention the border crisis, or the huge increase in crime, or unknown inflation. What do you think of all of this? Will we make it until we get a new president? Or even a new House or Senate? The left is now in charge and they are destroying America. Can we have a redo? And this time an honest election? Let me know what you think at 1-8-PRAGER-776. I'm Mark Eisler, filling in for Dennis Prager.
Aren't we already in the midst of a Saigon moment?
No, we're not. Remember, this is not Saigon. We went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain Free. Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts. Outbreak. In all bold. No difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated, N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant, but only if prior infection is 180 days earlier. It says this, that the Delta variant may cause more severe disease than the Alpha or the ancestral strains. So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandates. And in fact, certain sources that cover the White House very well, including Jack Posobiec, who has been wrong about almost nothing with his sources, say that lockdowns are coming to blue states in the next couple weeks.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I'm Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have doubled down on radical indoctrination in schools with their embrace of critical race theory. School boards and teachers unions have rushed to implement CRT into their curricula, in some cases while avoiding parental notification. Even as these education leaders refuse to reopen schools to children, they now plan to use their near monopoly on education to push this highly controversial ideology. It's already begun to backfire. Parents have begun demanding answers from school boards and campaigned to unseat their members. Political reports
Mark Hustler sitting in for Dennis Prager, and 1-8-Prager-776. We'll go to your calls. Especially, let's see if it's working. It is working. Let's go to Dan in, let's see, Hopkins, Minnesota.
Hello, Mr. Eisler.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
Thank you. It's so refreshing to hear a Salem host say that the election was stolen, because we all know it was. And what's really troubling is a lot of the Salem hosts are not talking about it, especially our beloved Dennis. He does not know the election was stolen. If that's the case, then Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell, and all countless of other very intelligent and knowledgeable people would be lying.
I think.
So after this,
yeah.
go ahead. Could you please engage Dennis?
Well, I think
on air.
Well, Dennis it's his show. Dennis is agnostic on the issue. He said that more than once.
That's ridiculous.
Let's not.
That's absurd.
I know. I'm not here to get into that what the other hosts think, but hear me out. But I was on for Dennis, and no one objected, and gave 23 or 20 some odd anomalies that had to happen for President Trump to lose the election. There's no doubt in my mind that he lost the election.
Would you consider having a loving discussion with Dennis about it, pointing out all of these facts which are proven to be true, not only about the Dominion systems, but about all the dead voters and the 73,243 fake ballots that were turned in Maricopa County alone?
You know, and I appreciate your call. Dennis and I are not going to totally agree on everything. We have differences. I remember, I don't know why I'm bringing this up. He doesn't think there was a conspiracy involved in the JFK assassination. I was a little kid, but I knew enough to, in my opinion, that clearly was a conspiracy. And he's right. Conspiracies hardly ever happen. But we have difference of opinion. We're not going to agree on everything. And so you take it up with each Salem host that you think you have an issue with. Because you put me then in an awkward position. We're never going to agree on everything. The only one, I think Dennis says this too, the only one I agree with everything is me. Actually, I don't agree with me on everything, as crazy as that sounds. Great calls. Let's go to, speaking of Salem in another way, Salem, Washington. Will, you're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark, good morning. And
good morning.
Congratulations on the fill in there.
Thank you.
Listen, when the Democrats and the leftists, they can call themselves whatever they want, but the point of the matter is, when a Joe Biden, makes these decisions illful, wrongful, unconstitutional decisions like this Afghanistan issue, it's not the United States of America. It's not us. It's only the Joe Biden regime. It's only the Democrat. Because when the news media puts out, oh, USA made a wrong mistake about Afghanistan, it's not the USA. It's the freaking Joe Biden administration. You see what I'm saying?
I do,
They're trying to point fingers on their mistake for everybody in the U.S. It's not us. It's them. It's him.
Here's the problem. That while they're in power, they represent us. And I'll give you an example. I'm sure there are millions of terrific Palestinian people. But while their leadership is trying to wipe Israel off the map, you get to say the Palestinians don't want to see Israel survive. Because unfortunately,
like
the people in power...
People, right?
Huh?
They say that we're racist, okay? It's not the freaking Republican that's racist. It's the Democratic Party that's racist.
We agree there.
The Lincoln debate with who's that? It eludes me who he debated.
Douglas.
The racist Democrat. Is it Calhoun?
No, I think it was Douglas.
Lincoln
it was
debate?
the Lincoln-Douglas debate.
Yeah, Douglas.
Yeah.
So it's the Democrat versus Republican, which is the racist party, is the Democratic Party. And people's got to know that, hands down.
And by the way, you're right. You probably know this. In the 60s, it was percentage-wise, it was the majority of Republicans that passed civil rights laws, not the Democrats. They were the Dixie Democrats that were against civil rights. The idea that minority communities vote for the Democrats is beyond me. Go ahead.
Yeah, going back to Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham Lincoln is a Republican president, and he signed it.
That's
he
right.
was anti-slavery. Hey, people, get this through your thick heads, okay? I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or even the new generations. Know your history, okay? That's where the problem relies in. I bet these BLM people don't even know their freaking history. That's the problem with this country.
You may not know this.
That is the problem.
Yeah, I'm also, thank you for your call. I'm also a teacher, and I try to do it, but not everybody does it well, to teach history, although now they're trying to indoctrinate them anyway, right? 1619 Project, critical race theory. They don't hear that from me. Let's go to Marty in Beaumont, California. Marty, you're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark. Glad to hear you.
Thank you.
I'm a 75-year-old Vietnam veteran, and as Yogi Berra said, this is deja vu all over again.
Well, thank you first for your service. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. It is an embarrassment for us, and I pray for the people that are being left behind.
Oh my God!
supported our effort. This is going to be tragic. Ironically, I'm sitting here doing a retrospective on the Vietnam War, and Joe Biden. President Johnson, either one, move over because you've got a new rival for the bottom of the list, Joe Biden.
Well, by the way, I didn't have a chance before the last break. The Biden Secretary of State said it was different. This is not Saigon. We had a different mission there. I have a question for you that I bet you they didn't ask him. What was the mission in Afghanistan? Why did you come into Afghanistan? And I think the answer would be, well, get rid of al-Qaeda, right? Because they had attacked us. And who do you think is going to come back in Afghanistan? There are already reports that al-Qaeda will...
Could it be al-Qaeda?
Yeah, so I guess you didn't accomplish your mission. You had one mission. But, of course, the reporter would never ask him that. If he did, I'll apologize. I didn't hear it on the clips that people shared. But... So what was your only mission that this is not Saigon? To make sure al-Qaeda didn't come back. Well, al-Qaeda's coming back. But they don't. It's crazy. Hey, thank you so much for your service. What you do, you guys are the heroes, not those silly sports guys that you ever hear that? Oh, what he did tonight was heroic. Heroic? Talk to the people in Afghanistan now. Say the translators, right? They helped us, or anybody else that helped us. They got to fear for their lives. Did you hear what I read? They're sending this aid organization, whatever it is, they're sending them notes, goodbye, because they know they may be gone. Why would you ever help the United States again? Huh? Has anybody thought about that? Well, Mark, you agree with Dennis, we should have stayed. Some kind of force, or leave this in an orderly fashion. Who was the Secretary of State, Sean? I hate to keep putting you on the spot. No, not that. See, you jumped. Not at Blinken. I have a different one for you now. Who was the Secretary of State who said Biden was there 47 years or less than that, never got on any foreign policy thing right? And the guy's written a book and stuff. And Gates. I think it just came to me. I think it was Gates. And he said in his book, he said he didn't get anything right in all those years. Sean says I'm correct. The guy's a disaster, if he's even making the decisions. It sure seems to me like he's not even making the decisions. This is who you voted for instead of President Trump? 1-8 Prager 776. Mark Eisler filling in for Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again. Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls! For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Stephen, let's pretend like you were president for a day. What do we do to get this economy back in shape?
So the first thing we do is we actually do exactly think of everything Biden has done and do exactly the opposite. And I'm not kidding, Carl. I mean, we do exactly the opposite of what Biden is doing. We don't need $4 trillion of spending right now. We need to be, after a crisis is over, and COVID is basically over now thanks to Trump and the vaccine, usually after like World War II or after the Cold War, we actually cut spending. We need to be aggressively cutting government spending. By the way, government spending, you know this, Carl, where did this crazy idea come from that government spending stimulates? All the government spending stimulates is government. It doesn't. The only way, let me put it very simply, because this is really important. I know you know this as a businessman. The only way that the government can give you $1,000 is to take $1,000 away from me, right? It's a zero-sum game, and all we're doing is taking money away from producers and giving it to people who don't produce. That's that formula for disaster.
You know what? It's so funny that you mention that. I talk about that often on my show, and one of the things It's frustrating to hear Biden talk about it, but it's even more. It's scary to me that people believe it. That there's such a lack of understanding when it comes to economics that it completely baffles me. It completely scares me that he could say the things that he says about inflation and just completely get away with it.
Now think about somebody like Joe Biden. What has Joe Biden done in his life? Well, he's never had a job. I mean, all he's done, he's been in government his whole life.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And the whole point of it was to do comedy from a Christian conservative perspective that wasn't cheesy, that didn't make us the joke. Because
isn't it funny that we always have to start there?
Yeah,
we're doing it. It's really brilliant, but it's not cheesy.
Right.
Like we're making films, but it's not cheesy. It's a TV program, but it's not cheesy.
That we do that's cheesy.
And it is an amazing thing. I said it before, but you guys, it's not just not cheesy. It's brilliant, and actually, in the world in which we live today, it's almost the only stuff that's happening at that level. I mean, there's nothing on the left.
Well, I can tell you
compare
why.
To it.
The reason there's nothing good on the left right now, and I know I've followed The Onion for years. They've been around for 20 plus years. They used to be very funny. They're less funny now, and they're less funny now for a very good reason. You know, the left has made all these rules about what you can and can't say, and they also have this idea that you can't offend anybody.
Right.
So in enforcing these rules, they even do this on comedians. They try to make comedians follow rules. You can't say this, you can't say that, you can't joke about this, you can't offend this people group, you can't punch down, never punch down.
Right.
And so they make all these rules, and comedians, by their nature, flout rules. They make fun of people who make rules. That's what comedians are supposed to do, right? That's their...
Mark Eisler filling in for Dennis Prager. As you know, August is fundraising month for PragerU with over 5 billion views. PragerU has been educating college and high school students all over the world. Can you imagine 5 billion views? It's hard to comprehend. And now PragerU is reaching grammar and junior high school kids with new PragerU Kids content. Education got us into this mess. Education is the only way out. Part-time teacher too, and I agree with that totally. They try to indoctrinate the kids. It's unbelievable. We need to support Dennis and his terrific team. This week, your contribution will be matched by a generous donor. So go to PragerU.com to donate, or call 833-PragerU, PragerU.com, or call 833-PragerU. They just do marvelous work. And I'm not just saying that. I mentioned last week when I filled in for Dennis that I can go somewhere, usually subbing because I don't do as much high school as I used to. I do adults now. And I'll walk in, maybe we'll have a discussion and say, oh, you're on the radio. Do you know Dennis Prager? Or more likely, do you know PragerU? I mean, it's unbelievable. All parts of town. You wouldn't believe it. It is making a huge difference. So you've got to do what you can. And let's see if I can help. Speaking of doing what I can, Fred has an issue in... where's the veteran? There it is. Crown Point, Indiana. Let's go to Bill. Bill, you're on with Mark, and you have a problem with the VA? Hi, Bill. Bill is driving or doing the lawn. Sounds like a lawnmower, too. He's a veteran, so let me put him on hold. And he's having, I think it says, lost his COVID vaccine card, and VA refused to give another. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that brings up a point, right? Now you're going to have this new identification card. I thought we couldn't do that at voting places and other places, that you're not supposed to have these proof of voter ID, but you need proof of voter vaccine. I'm telling you, I live on another planet. Let's go to Richard, and let's see where Richard is. And having a little trouble with my mouse. There it is. In Marina del Rey, California. Richard, you're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark, you're doing a wonderful job. It's nice to hear you on the radio. What's the other guy's name? I can't remember anymore. You're doing such a good job.
Don't do that. There's nobody. No, I appreciate your humor, but there's nobody like Dennis. He's just so unique, and I know you agree with me on this. What he brings to all of us is unbelievable. No one ever could replace Dennis Prager. So I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. He motivates me, and I'm not a graduate yet, but I'm definitely a student, at my ripe old age. I wanted to talk about the Rhinos and Liz Cheney. Yeah. They're blaming, they're publicly, and it's getting a lot of traction, blaming Trump for this disaster, which brings me to a bigger discussion.
Wait, I'll give you a chance. Are you sure? I didn't hear that. They not a surprise, but I didn't hear they're blaming President Trump.
Well, no, Liz Cheney yesterday said that it's Trump's policy, which was flawed, that Biden is just completing. It's all over, starting last night. You're going to hear it all this week. They did this with Bush. And, Biden is never going to take responsibility for any of his disastrous decisions, if they're even his at all.
So did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said in the opening monologue, that how come he didn't have to continue his border policy or Iran policy or the pipeline policy? How come this is the only one they were committed to follow?
Well, it really bothers me a lot that the Republicans are so divided. They're doing the work. They're more damaging. The Rhinos are more damaging. That's not even a right name anymore, Rhino.
Oh, my glad.
And Mitt Romney
I'm interrupting you a lot.
Rhinos.
But you know why I want to, I'm glad you said that, because my favorite animals are rhinoceroses. So I hate when they say rhinos. Sean, rhinoceri? Is that what Sean wants me to say? That gets... Yeah, it must be rhinoceros. You must be right. Rhinos.
Well, absolutely. But it just drives me nuts because there were so many good things that happened. And, I like the pendulum theory in America for the last 200 years. Mm-hmm. And, you swing to the right, you swing to the left, and you come back down. And the good presidents, when there's a different administration, they capitalize on the successes of the previous administrations, and they try to correct mistakes. And what we're doing right now is we're sweeping everything under the rug, and we're starting to dismantle the successes, such as energy independence, no war in the Middle East.
Great call. We hit that hard break, or at least we got to get out. Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line one. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It's time for the fearless. There's no time for the meek. This is America's moment. What's taking place in our schools, the crime in our cities, all of these things that we can see unraveling this most exceptional nation. It's time for the real believers and the real conservatives to step forward and be absolutely fearless in doing so.
But I think a lot of Americans have woken up, and so we don't even know what is going on the grassroots level because you can't keep track of everything. But I think people are rising up, and they're looking for folks like you and the handful of others in Congress, and they're saying we can no longer do business as usual. But I mean, 10 years ago, you were not thinking like this.
No, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And by the way, I can give you 2 data points from the last 48 hours. I was in southwest Missouri at the Ashcroft family farm. It was a picnic outdoor. Poured rain right about an hour before the picnic. Nobody left. They left. They gave me a chance. They gave former Attorney General Ashcroft a chance to talk about the Bible and the America and what we were all going to go do. These people were on fire to take back. And I had people come up and say, I never thought I'd run for city council, and I'm going to do it. And I had a couple law enforcement who said, I didn't have any interest in actually being the sheriff, but our sheriff won't enforce the rules. I'm going to go do that. No, this is different. I was in Iowa at an event that was very similar to that. And people are engaged in their civic life, in their churches, in their community in ways that I have not seen. I've been at this now 9-10 years from the time I first lost my mind and ran for Congress when Obama was the president and we had to throw Nancy out the last time. Who'd have believed we'd have to throw her out of speakership again? But here we are, and this is a moment where our people are being tested, they're being challenged, and my observation is people are rising to that challenge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Universal masking.
Prager. As the death toll rises following the 7.2 magnitude earthquake in Haiti this weekend, the Salem Radio Network, parent company of Dennis's show, is making an effort to rush emergency food to children and families cut off from normal food supplies through our friends at Food for the Poor. If you would like to donate to this emergency campaign today, please visit our network news website, srnnews.com. That's srnnews.com. And just click on the Give Food, Give Hope banner, and thank you. It's hard to believe what those people go through in Haiti, so I didn't know that, but that's a great thing that Salem is doing. I still want to try to help Fred, so let me give him one more chance. Fred in Arizona, you're on with Mark.
Yeah, this is Fred from Lake Havasu.
Yes, hi, Fred.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a retired Air Force officer, and this particular, I think we should be looking at this thing in one sense. This is a total failure of communication, a total failure of assessment. Secretary of Defense Austin should resign, and I think the American public should demand that. He may not have known what was going on, but it is his job to know. That's what he does.
Yeah, he's more interested in critical race theory like the rest of them, probably.
Pardon me?
He's probably interested in critical race theory like the rest of them.
Well, no, this is what happened when you have careerist officers put in serious positions. There are two kinds of senior officers. One's a warrior, the other one is a careerist. Mm-hmm. The careerists are the ones that get promoted. Dollars to donuts, he got one of his stars from Obama. And every one of those generals should be fired. Who were in the JSOC. That's the area of operations. They should simply be fired. Because this is incompetence at the highest level.
Absolutely. It's hard to watch. Thanks for your service, by the way. Go ahead, finish up.
Thank you for telling everybody out there, thank me for my service. Vote Republican. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. And I wanted to get Bill. I mean, not Fred's call was fine, but let's get to Bill, Crown Point, Indiana. Bill, are you there now?
To 93rd.
Bill, are you there?
Yeah. Yeah, this will take you to 93rd. You'll
Hi, Bill. No,
report
not
out.
working. All right, you get three chances with me. You get three. He's still. I don't. He's got a question about the fee. I think I have some advice what he should do. All right, but I could be wrong. Let's go to Mike in. Is it Needville, Pennsylvania?
It is. Thank you for taking my call, Mark.
Sure.
So I was hoping you can address something that I have not heard anyone talk about. There's a collective of people out there that think that things just happen. There's no real reason, no one really to blame. Of course, I'm referring to when it's their side that is at fault. But I've actually had intimate experiences with things that are going very bad, and they say, well, you know, you just can't account for it. Things just happen, and I don't buy it. There's always that perfect storm of events that led up to the tragedy, and Afghanistan is just the latest one in a major scale.
I'm trying to find my
but
notes.
Can you address to that point that the collective that believes things just happen?
Yeah, look, here's something, a quote that I think ties into what you're saying. According to reports in the Arab world, in a victory speech from Kabul on Sunday, one of the leaders, or maybe the head, said, "I want to congratulate the Muslim Afghan people on this huge victory, especially the citizens and residents of Kabul. And I also want to advise and demand from Mujahideen, Taliban fighters, that we've reached a situation that is unexpected and unique. This happened with the help of God, and it must not make us arrogant." They didn't even expect the withdrawal the way it happened. They didn't expect everybody to just abdicate. Why didn't our forces know this? Why didn't the president and his people say, hey, we got to make sure there's an orderly withdrawal and that these guys just don't move in? But no, you have the secretary, the communications deputy, whatever he's called, at the Defense Department saying, well, the Taliban won't, before this happened, the Taliban won't overrun the country because they'll want to get along, international relations, and this will be, what? That's what you think dictators are going to respond to? Are you kidding me? If he's the spokesman for the Defense Department, we're in trouble.
Well, like the previous caller mentioned, certain people have certain jobs to do, and it's their job to have a lot better bead on things than the average person living in either country does.
Yeah.
And yet they grossly misinformed, miscalculated, and then consequently misinformed the public of what the public already knew was going to happen anyways.
Yeah, you make a great point.
It didn't take a genius.
Yeah.
It didn't take a genius to know the cat goes away, the mice are coming and playing. That's how it goes.
You're right. You made a
They were
great
not
point.
eradicated.
If you ask the average person on the street, without even knowledge of Afghanistan, saying, you just knowing that these people, the brutality they did the last time they were in power, do you think these people are just going to lay down their arms and let us leave the airport peacefully and they won't attack because they'll care about international views of them? I mean, the average person gets what bullies are like and what they do, that you can't just give in to them. And by the way, I have an article that I have an article that Sean and William gave me that President Biden on Saturday doubled down on his long-standing rationale for withdrawing the U.S. military from Afghanistan, and he blamed President Trump. Oh, I get it. There's nothing you did or didn't do that led to this. It must have been President Trump, who the Taliban was kind of afraid of. By the way, I want to say this. I didn't agree with President Trump when he negotiated with the Taliban because I'm consistent. You can't negotiate with terrorists. I mean, it's just near impossible. Or to ever take their word that what they say they'll do, they'll do. It's so difficult. So I knew that. Thanks for your call, Mike. The average man on the street would know this stuff. 1-8 Prager 776. This has been a disaster in Afghanistan. And with this guy in the White House, good luck that we make it another 3 years. Let me know what you think. 1-8 Prager 776. Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager.
Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have doubled down on radical indoctrination in schools with their embrace of critical race theory. School boards and teachers unions have rushed to implement CRT into their curricula, in some cases while avoiding parental notification. Even as these education leaders refuse to reopen schools to children, they now plan to use their near monopoly on education to push this highly controversial ideology. It's already begun to backfire. Parents have begun demanding answers from school boards and campaigned to unseat their members. Politico reports that even Democratic voters are repelled by these plans, and that the radical efforts have fired up independent and conservative voters. The combination of closures and radical agendas have handed Republicans their best opening in decades. With parents under attack by the education establishment, now is the time to demand comprehensive school choice. The choice between liberty and bureaucratic domination over children is now crystal clear in all demographics and areas. The GOP needs to wake up to this golden opportunity. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And then suddenly people wake up. I never thought it would get this bad this quickly, but it seems that it has taken the madness. Most Americans, if they can finally focus, they just look up and they say, wait a minute. You're telling me the people burning down buildings aren't doing anything wrong. They're peaceful protesters. In other words, your average American who doesn't have a voice the way you do or I do looks around and says, this has gone too far. Leashed on the land. I need to do something for my kids, for my grandkids. I thought freedom was a free ride, and I realize now, nope, I'm going to have to, pick up my gun and go to the front lines. Maybe not literally, but it's a similar thing. You realize that everything you held near and dear is being threatened directly. And when your kids are being threatened,
that's it.
You don't care. You're just going to do whatever it takes.
It's about the kids. You know the instinct. You know what the Lord teaches us about parenting. These parents aren't about to take this. They're not allowed. They're not about to allow this to happen in their schools. They may not have seen it because they worked, but I think the combination of having their kids at home during COVID, I think the left's movement, I think the idea somehow that our country was ill-founded, the 1619 Project, this idea that we're racist because we're white. This is something parents are not going to sit back and allow to be propagated. And so it'll take a little time to regain control of these city councils, of these school boards, of these state boards or regions that have allowed our university system to become, right, these are American universities. Today, they're largely not American and, frankly, not the kind of university anybody would be proud of. I think people are going to take this all back, and what they need is good leaders who are fearless, helping them figure out where to apply their shoulder to the grindstone. We know choices matter.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe.
If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're paying too much. And I think it's a good idea if you switch to Pure Talk. Pure Talk can save your family over $800 a year. Wow. Yes, same great coverage because Pure Talk is on the exact same network as one of the big three, but at a fraction of the price. And switching is as easy as switching out your SIM card. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. I checked it out. That's all true. Dennis got the iPhone 12, and he loves it. Plus, right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just about $30 a month. And if you go over in data, they don't charge you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager, and save an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Dennis Prager. And the last chance for Bill, I felt sorry, I thought I might have a possible answer. Bill, you're on with Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, we did it. We did it. Third time's the charm. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. I guess I need to switch to that cell phone provider.
Yeah, go to Pure Talk, and it'll do better. Yeah.
It's a phenomenon.
All right,
Anyway,
you made up for it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to use your show us a roster and to provide a warning to any vet out there who has yet to get their COVID shot to stay away from the VA, because I got my shot there. I misplaced the card, and they will not issue a duplicate card. They will give you a print out a letter which looks like a Microsoft Word document. There's nothing official looking about it. So if the idea is to prevent forgery, it's kind of the purpose. And if I'd have gotten it at the Walgreens or CVS or the local drugstore, I could have gotten it replaced, no questions asked. But they can't issue a replacement card because I didn't get it there. Well, the cruise line, they will accept no substitutes. They want the card. They won't take a photocopy. They won't take a picture. So I've had to write to my congressperson.
I was going to say that. Yeah, get to your congressperson.
Yeah,
and
so
that'd
that's
be
the thanks for my service, So at any rate, yeah, and if anybody's already gotten it at the VA, make sure they guard it with their life, because believe me, you wouldn't believe the hoops you have to jump through, and the issue still hasn't been resolved.
Well, thanks for your service, and don't give up. I think they've got to be exposed what they're doing. I want to. We're going to run out of time, but I'll keep doing Afghanistan. I think it's Banatal who wants to say to me that Biden did a good job. So I'll put you on for a second. So just stay there, okay, Banatal? And okay. I'll get you next hour. Okay? Thanks so much. Let me know what you think. 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis. I have a lot of other news stories, but we'll stay on Afghanistan if that's what you want.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population, and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line 1. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker, and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It's time for the fearless. There's no time for the meek. This is America's moment. What's taking place in our schools, the crime in our cities, all of these things that we can see unraveling this most exceptional nation. It's time for the real believers and the real conservatives to step forward and be absolutely fearless in doing so.
But I think a lot of Americans have woken up, and so we don't even know what is going on the grassroots level because you can't keep track of everything. But I think people are rising up, and they're looking for folks like you and the handful of others in Congress, and they're saying we can no longer do business as usual. But I mean, 10 years ago, you were not thinking like this.
No, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And by the way, I can give you 2 data points from the last 48 hours. I was in Southwest Missouri at the Ashcroft family farm. It was a picnic outdoor, poured rain right about an hour before the picnic. Nobody left. They left. They gave me a chance. They gave former Attorney General Ashcroft a chance to talk about the Bible and the America and what we were all going to go do. These people were on fire to take back. And I had people come up and say, I never thought I'd run for city council, and I'm going to do it. And I had a couple of law enforcement who said, I didn't have any interest in actually being the sheriff, but our sheriff won't enforce the rules. I'm going to go do that. No, this is different. I was in Iowa at an event that was very similar to that. And people are engaged in their civic life, in their churches, in their community in ways that I have not seen. I've been at this now 9-10 years from the time I first lost my mind and ran for Congress when Obama was the president and we had to throw Nancy out the last time. Who'd have believed we'd have to throw her out of speakership again? But here we are, and this is a moment where our people are being tested, they're being challenged, and my observation is people are rising to that challenge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Universal masking is going to be mandatory for source control and prevention. But most amazingly, in the new CDC leaked documents that we have here on our program, is that they model the vaccine only being 75 to 85% effective. That's their own internal modeling. Is that a vaccine or is that a therapeutic? Have you ever heard of a vaccine only being 75 or 85% effective? That's their own modeling. That's their own assumptions. And it says here, given higher transmissibility and current vaccine coverage, universal masking is essential to reduce transmission of the dental variant. Basically, they're saying, look, you want to talk about people who are sowing vaccine hesitancy? You want to talk about people that are sowing discord and losing trust in the vaccine? It's the Center for Disease Control. Joe Biden and the federal government is now running interference at a very aggressive pace. Cut 89. Joe Biden says, at my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same. Cut 89.
Who live in areas with substantial or high case rates will follow the mask guidance that's being laid down by the CDC. And at my decision, at my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same thing.
Every single building. Alan Dershowitz, a man I have a lot of respect for, is just so wrong on this, it's hard to even put into words. Cut 91, Alan Dershowitz says, and I'd love to have him on our podcast and describe this, he's a civil liberty guy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We have vaccine mandates for federal workers. Nancy Pelosi says masks are back. You're going to be arrested if you don't wear them in Congress. When is this going to end, Phil?
It's I don't know when it's going to end. We've got the masks are mandatory again in Washington, D.C. As of 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning, which is very interesting because it's been 13 days since the District of Columbia last reported a death with COVID. We've had 11 homicides in the last 13 days,
yep.
But 0 deaths with COVID. And,
maybe they should ban homicides, Phil.
Yeah, right. Well, or at least maybe have a little bit more vigorous enforcement of the existing laws against them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
It's Mark Eisler back with you again, sitting in for Dennis Prager. It's my 13th year, and it's always a privilege, always an honor. I can't think of anybody else. He's always my first choice. He's just unbelievable. And speaking of Dennis, as you know, August is fundraising month for PragerU with over 5 billion views. I can't comprehend 5 billion views. PragerU has been educating college and high school students all over the world. And now PragerU is reaching grammar and junior high school kids with new PragerU Kids content. Education got us into this mess. Education is the only way out. We need to support Dennis and his terrific team. This week, your contribution will be matched by a generous donor. That's terrific. So go to PragerU.com to donate or call 833-PragerU, PragerU.com, or call 833-PragerU. And as I said in the last hour, you can't imagine what an influence that has become, and I see it all the time. I see it everywhere. What Dennis and Alan have done is just unbelievable. There's a limit. You know, what they're doing is great. If Larry, we're going to have Larry on the next hour. If Larry wins, maybe I'll be his, we haven't discussed this. He doesn't know this. Maybe I'll be his education secretary or something. But even then, there's so much little you can do in politics compared to the grassroots, what PragerU is doing. So I really appreciate it. And I hope you do too, and show it by contributing. So we're talking about Afghanistan. There are a lot of issues in the news. I will go to Benetol. I promised that, Sean. But first, I just wanted to open it up a little bit, if that's okay with you. That's just checking. He's not sure. All right. And I mentioned to you the Taliban has declared the new president of the co-founder of the Taliban has been declared the new president of Afghanistan after the terror group announced the 20-year Western occupation is over now and proclaimed an Islamic State during a triumphant speech from the presidential palace in Kabul. So I thought you'd appreciate that, and you might love the new name. But I want to read, did you send it to me, Sean, or did Alan? I can't remember. The Wall Street Journal editorial. Oh, no, I know who sent it to me, my good friend Richard. So here's the Journal editorial. I want to start with that. And this was, let's see, August 15th. That was yesterday. President tries to duck responsibility for a calamitous withdrawal. Oh, that's a good term. I like that, calamitous. President Biden's statement on Saturday, washing his hands of Afghanistan, deserves to go down as one of the most shameful in history by a commander-in-chief at such a moment of American retreat. Wow. As the Taliban closed in on Kabul, Mr. Biden sent a confirmation of U.S. abandonment that absolved himself of responsibility, deflected blame to his predecessor, and more or less invited the Taliban to take over the country. With that statement of capitulation, the Afghan military's last resistance collapsed. Taliban fighters captured Kabul, and President Ghani fled the country while the U.S. frantically tried to evacuate Americans. The jihadists the U.S. toppled 20 years ago for sheltering Osama bin Laden will now fly their flag of the U.S. Embassy building on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Our goal all along has been to offer constructive advice to avoid this outcome. We criticized Donald Trump's deal with the Taliban and warned about the risks of his urge to withdraw in a rush. I agreed with that, and I said that last hour. You know, if you're consistent and honest, you keep to your philosophy. I think it was a mistake. And we did the same for Mr. Biden. The president's advisors offered an alternative, as did the Afghanistan study group. Mr. Biden is always too assured of his own foreign policy acumen, refused to listen. And I think that's our call I'm going to take next. Mr. Biden's Saturday self-justification exemplifies his righteous dishonesty. Quote, 1 more year or 5 more years of U.S. military presence would not have made a difference if the Afghan military cannot or will not hold its own country, unquote, Mr. Biden said. But I said unquote. Mr. Biden said, but the Afghans were willing to fight and take casualties with the support of the U.S. and its NATO allies, especially air power. A few thousand troops and contractors could have done the job and prevented this rout. Did you hear that? A few thousand troops and contractors. Worse is his attempt to blame his decisions on Mr. Trump. Quote, when I came to office, I inherited a deal cut by my predecessor, which he invited the Taliban to discuss at Camp David on the eve of 9/11 of 2019. That left the Taliban in the strongest position militarily since 2001 and imposed the May 1st, 2021 deadline on U.S. forces. Shortly before he left office, he also drew U.S. forces down to a bare minimum of 2,500. Therefore, when I became president, I faced the choice. Follow through on the deal with a brief extension to get our forces and our allies forces out safely or ramp up our presence and send more American troops to fight once again in another country's civil conflict, unquote. Note that Mr. Biden is more critical of his predecessor than he is of the Taliban. The president has spent 7 months ostentatiously overturning this is what I said, one Trump policy after another on foreign and domestic policy. Yet he now claims Afghanistan policy is the one he could do nothing about. This is a pathetic denial of his own agency, and also it's a false choice. Get this. It's as if Winston Churchill, with his troops surrounded at Dunkirk, had declared that Neville Chamberlain got him into this mess, and the British had already fought too many wars on the continent. Mr. Trump's withdrawal deadline was a mistake. See? We both admit it. But Mr. Biden could have maneuvered around it. He knows this because his administration conducted an internal policy review that provided him with options. The Taliban had already violated its pledges under the deal. Mr. Biden could have maintained the modest presence his military and foreign policy advisors suggested. He could have decided to withdraw, but done so based on conditions on the ground while preparing the Afghans with a plan for transition and air support. They didn't get that air support. Instead, he ordered a rapid and total withdrawal at the outset of the annual fighting season in time for the symbolic target date of 9/11. Most of the American press at that time, hailed his decision as courageous. 4 months later is the worst U.S. humiliation since the fall of Saigon in 1975. The Taliban is saying it wants a peaceful transfer of power in Kabul, but the scenes are still redolent of U.S. defeat. I was just watching with Sean, people trying to get on the airplane. I mean, even when it was taking off, and their defense secretary, Biden, says, this is not Saigon. No, it sure looks like it to me. The scramble to destroy classified documents, the helicopters evacuating U.S. diplomats, the abandonment in Taliban hands of valuable U.S. military equipment. Worst of all is the plight of the Afghans who assisted the U.S. over 2 decades. Mr. Biden said Saturday that the 5,000 U.S. troops he is sending in will help in evacuating Afghans and Americans. But there are thousands of translators, their families, and other officials who are in peril from Taliban rule and didn't get out in time. The Biden administration was far too slow to get them out of the country despite urgent warnings. The murder of these innocents will compound the stain on the Biden presidency. The consequences of all this will play out over many months and years, and none will be good. The illusion indulged on the left and right that the U.S. can avoid the world's horrors while gardening its entitlement state is sure to come home to haunt. Adversaries are taking Mr. Biden's measure, and there will be more trouble ahead, no doubt about it. The cost will be all the more painful because the ugliness of this surrender was so unnecessary. Good luck those living in Taiwan, for one thing. And I promised I'd go back to see if I can find him. There he is. Benatal in Norwalk, California. You're on with Mark.
Yes. Hi, Mark. Thank you for allowing me to talk.
Sure.
So everybody's thinking that this was very bad mishandling issue. It's not. It was well orchestrated. Let me explain. Didn't Biden and, let's say Obama-Biden, did they not try to overthrow Egypt? They sold weapons, tanks, aircraft, jet fighters to overthrow the only stable democracy friendly with West and Israel. And that's it.
No. Okay? That wasn't a democracy. It was theoretically democratically elected, but it put in power tyranny. And the trouble with when you vote for tyranny, you never get another chance. It's over. So I was for that. Even though you and I may disagree, I was for that. Go ahead.
Okay. What about in Iran? Remember, Iran wanted to have a revolution, correct?
Yeah.
And
they did.
It was not supported by Obama and Biden. In fact, Obama helped the Islamic Republic by sending them even more money. Libya was tyrannical, however, not Muslim extremist at the time. Obama, Biden overthrew it. Now Al-Qaeda is ruling it, which is Muslim extremist.
We got to go.
They tried the same thing with Syria.
We got to go, but I gave you your chance. Thanks so much. Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military, the healthcare profession. You know how many nurses, and dare I say doctors, physician's assistants, unwilling to get the vaccine? It's more than a little. So what do we do with them? What do we do with those people? In fact, that's been one of the most unreported stories of the whole crisis of this pandemic. Healthcare workers who are unvaccinated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694. 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts, outbreak. In all bold, no difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated, N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant, but only if prior infection is 180 days earlier. It says this, that the Delta variant may cause more severe disease than the Alpha or the ancestral strains. So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandate.
Now, Mark Eisner for Dennis Prager. Is that Bob Dylan? It's, I'm not that, you don't think I could ever get anything right with any of the music? I can't believe you, Sean. As the death toll rises following the 7.2 magnitude earthquake in Haiti this weekend, the Salem Radio Network, parent company of Dennis's show, is making an effort to rush emergency food to children and families cut off from normal food supplies through our friends at Food for the Poor. If you would like to donate to this emergency campaign today, please visit our network news website, SRN, and I keep saying that fast, too fast, srnnews.com. That's srnnews.com. And just click on the Give Food, Give Hope banner, and thank you. That's terrific what they're doing. And let's go to Nas, I think you pronounce it, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, in Irvine, California. You're on with Mark.
Yes, Mark. Thank you for taking my call. Yes, you pronounced it right, Nas. It's short for Nazareth.
Yes.
Well, I was so mad what happened yesterday, and I knew it all along that it was going to happen. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Afghanistan. I was born in Kandahar. I immigrated to this great country called the United States of America in 1979 at age 16. I was way before the Russians took over. My father was an American citizen prior to my arrival, because he came here in 1968. So we became citizens by virtue before even landing at JFK. So that's how much I love this country.
Yes.
Anyway, 2009, I went on deployment to Afghanistan, and Obama had this big surge of defeating the Taliban, while the whole time bin Laden was sitting in Pakistan. 1 year deployment extended to 33 months. That's how much I love the Special Forces, what they were doing the first year that I was with them. A year later, I realized from talking to villagers, our job was to go to the remote villages that no one have ever been to, not even the Afghan government. I had video, tapes, pictures, and all sorts of evidence. But when my job was at the Bagram Air Base with the NSA, CIA, FBI, State Department in 2010, everything just changed all of a sudden. Military people were stopped, sent home, and a lot of civilians showed up. Now, here was the thing. There was 1,000 interpreter that was sent from the U.S. to go translate over there. You know what they did to me?
No.
They said, well, we don't understand what this means, We translated documents and radio interception. No one understood what the people were interpreting. So in Afghan culture, I was there as an American, but every interpreter that worked with me, they consider themselves still as Afghans. So if I would have corrected them on their translation, they would say, are you taking the American side now? I reported all of this to my superior. You know what they were telling me? I said, nah, just do your job. We don't want to open another can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
But people will run from different buildings to me, asking me like, Nas, your cut translation make a lot of sense. This makes sense. But why can everyone else? I say, well, most of them doesn't speak both language, and the military was never told that Afghanistan does not have a language called Afghani. It's Pashto and Farsi. Most military people thought everyone in the room was speaking Afghani. You see?
Yeah.
The Pashtun didn't translate because they don't want to turn in the Taliban. The Tajik, Farsi spoken, never translated because they didn't know how to translate. They were there just because Obama rushed in all these interpreters, these military, these civilian contracts to the DOD. Everyone was just getting paid sitting on their butts. So I was frustrated. I resigned, and the captain in the U.S. Air Force, who was in charge of the language branch at the time, said, Mr. Kakar, as my last name, please, can you stay with me another 6 months? We are on a very important mission. That was 2011. I said, I respect you, Captain. I will stay with you another 6 months. But my staying 6 months or 10 years is not going to make any difference because no one listens.
So what do you want our listeners to know from all of this? That I don't think you're suggesting we shouldn't save the translators.
No. I'm not saying we shouldn't say the translator. I'm saying this was coming that the Taliban will come to the government. The president of Afghanistan just left like a power.
Yes.
And I told every one of them, and they were telling me not. We trained 300,000 Afghan military. They're well trained. And I say, yeah, you don't know Afghans. They're not trained because they wanted to fight for Afghanistan. They're trained because you're showing them dollars. As soon as that dollar stops, they will disappear like rats. And this is exactly what happened. And this is exactly what I wrote in my book, which I sent to Mike Pompeo when he became CIA director and President Trump, and they thanked me. I believe they were following the right policy of putting Taliban into the framework of the current government of Afghanistan, not like Joe Biden sleeping at a podium saying the 300,000 Afghan soldiers that we trained is well prepared. No, they weren't well prepared. No one listened to me. We wasted all our money preparing who? Just dress Afghan in special forces uniform, expect them to be our U.S. special forces? That's just a joke. But I'm frustrated with Obama. I'm frustrated with Biden. I wasn't frustrated with Bush at the beginning. He did the right thing. He knocked off the terrorists and gave to the Afghan people, take care of your country. But when Obama sent 100,000 American troops and 30,000 NATO to go through villages to create what he created today in the presidential palace are those same people that told me during interrogation, spit on my face because it's insulting in Afghan culture. They spit on my face and told me, tell your American buddies, when they came in 2001 and we took the Tajiks from the Kabul city to the mountain of Panjshir, you guys gave it back to the Panjshiris and the Tajiks. We will claim our land.
We got to go, but I want to get this out that we thank you for your service, and you've helped me in the sense these so-called experts that we have in the State Department and elsewhere. It's hard to believe that we still trust them. 1-8 Prager 776 Mark Eisler filling in for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandates. And in fact, certain sources that cover the White House very well, including Jack Posobiec, who has been wrong about almost nothing with his sources, say that lockdowns are coming to blue states in the next couple weeks. Did you know that 5 people in Washington, D.C. died from COVID in the last week, and 11 people died from homicide? On average, we have 1,800 people that die of heart disease every single day in America. Why are we allowing these people to now get us into another state of panic?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
Are you a double masker, Dr. Fauci? It looks like you are.
Now, Alicia, I think probably has a good reason to reject her doctor's explanation that that's the guy that we should all listen to. Matt Taibbi, in this report or his column that I saw at New York Post, said he writes, PolitiFact, which now basically exists to deflect criticism from the Biden administration, rated false the claim that Biden and Harris actually had reservations about the safety of the vaccines.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Matt Taibbi says PolitiFact's excuse is that the then candidates, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, were raising questions not about the vaccines themselves, but about then President Donald Trump's rollout of the vaccines.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
PolitiFact said it's false that Kamala Harris had reservations about the vaccines. Matt Taibbi says, wait a minute, PolitiFact says it's false. What the hell does that mean? That it's okay to have reservations not just about the White House, but about the CDC, FDA, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, and every other institution involved with the vaccine effort if you don't like or trust the president?
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I mean, if you're going to censor yourself in deference to that power that's above you, that's telling you what you can and can't say, then you are the joke. You're not making jokes. You are the joke. Comedians, in our situation, what we look at is what we're doing. We're often accused, we're lately have been accused of punching down. We're punching back. We're not punching down. This is a situation where conservatives are literally on the ropes in the culture battle.
Yeah.
And they're defending themselves against this top-down attack, this top-down tyranny from progressive ideology that's coming from celebrities, it's coming from corporations, it's coming from politicians.
Yeah.
We're not punching down. We're punching back at that stuff.
So how big has the Babylon Bee, it's grown dramatically, but give us some numbers so we have a sense of where you've come from in the last 4 years.
Well, so in the last 4 years, I mean, we've crossed the 1 million follower threshold on most of our social media.
You know what?
So.
I believe I was.
Okay, still filling in for Dennis Prager. Take a look at your cell phone bill. I did it. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're paying too much. I know that. I want you to switch to Pure Talk. Pure Talk can save your family over $800 a year. Yes, same great coverage, because Pure Talk is on the exact same network as one of the big three, but at a fraction of the price. And switching is as easy as switching out your SIM card. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Dennis got the iPhone 12, and he loves it. Plus, right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just about $30 a month. And if you go over on data, they don't charge you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager, and save an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 and say Dennis Prager. Here's someone who disagrees with me, and I want him to explain himself. In Murrieta, Georgia, Mike, you're on with Mark.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. And I just heard you say a while ago about how Trump, and it sounds like something from the left, shouldn't have negotiated, so to speak, with the Taliban. And negotiation is a fancy word for let's make a deal. And which the deal was explained by Mike Pompeo this weekend on some of the talk shows, the news shows, that, hey, if you mess with us, we won't take you out. We will take a village out. They did. We did. And that was end of story for anything for Taliban for quite some time. So I think negotiation with the enemy is not out of the realm. And I just don't understand where you come from about we shouldn't lay out the land. I don't care if you call it negotiation, make a deal, or whatnot. It's kind of like if the bully's stealing your lunch money and one of your big buddies comes in and says, hey, bully, if you do that again, I'm going to flatten your nose, and bully quits. Is that not a good deal?
Maybe I should have been.
Is that a problem?
Maybe I should have been clearer. I don't think Trump was right in withdrawing all the troops to even ever agree to the deal. So maybe it's the details of the deal that I object to even more so, because you need, as the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if you read that, heard me read that editorial. They made it clear a few thousand troops with contractors also would have made the difference. This would not have happened. So I don't like the deal that he made. And I try to be honest that way. I'm a big, I don't know if you've heard me previously. I think the election was stolen from him. He's been a great president, but I think he made a mistake on that.
Well, I can understand, and I agree, we should keep a base there. I mean, why don't you want a jumping off point for anything else, that happens in a certain region? I think that's crazy not to. So now we've lost that ability as well.
Yeah.
But, so I understand that, and maybe I didn't hear that.
And maybe I wasn't as clear, thank you, saying, there may be times you can negotiate with your enemies if it's mutually beneficial, but I think he made a mistake on that. But you may not have heard me. I didn't say it today. I thought he was a great president.
Yeah, especially when you spell out to them what you're going to get if you do. So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it brings a lot of clarity to the table,
Absolutely.
wherever that table is.
Well,
whether
good.
It's here or there.
Good call. We didn't disagree that much, did we, Mike? I think we reached some resolution. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And let's see. Let's go to Brent in Los Angeles. Brent, you're on with Mark.
Hello, Mark. It's a pleasure talking with you again.
Thank you so much.
And I wanted to reveal the Democrats' conveniently disproportionate vote concerning Biden's Afghan duplicity and destruction, while obscuring and hiding his even more horrifying policies of disregarding Hong Kong's current CCP enslavement and the imminent amphibious invasion of Taiwan, his protection of Cuba's Castro-Che communism, his promoting of Mexican cartel importation of COVID, fentanyl, and Islamo-Marxist terrorists, and his green-lighting of Iran to manufacture nuclear weapons.
Yeah. And this looks like a dry run in terms of Afghanistan. If he's going to just quit like this and allow this kind of chaos and devastation, what's he going to do about Taiwan? That just emboldens them, as one of the places you mentioned.
He's signaling the rest of the world, just do what you do, because he's no longer an American president. He's not working on our behalf.
Yeah, well, not unlike his predecessor, his boss, who went on an apology tour, right? The greatest country in the history of the world is apologizing to thugs and terrorists and others out there for God knows what. Great.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Brandon.
We used to think Obama was the worst catastrophe as a president. It's like Biden is making him look like a piker.
Well, not quite a piker, but I get your point, Brent. 1-8 Prager 776 Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts. Outbreak. In all bold. No difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated, N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant, but only if prior infection is 180 days earlier. It says this, that the Delta variant may cause more severe disease than the Alpha or the ancestral strains. So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandates. And in fact, certain sources that cover the White House very well, including Jack Posobiec, who has been wrong about almost nothing with his sources, say that lockdowns are coming to blue states in the next couple weeks.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I'm Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have doubled down on radical indoctrination in schools with their embrace of critical race theory. School boards and teachers unions have rushed to implement CRT into their curricula, in some cases while avoiding parental notification. Even as these education leaders refuse to reopen schools to children, they now plan to use their near monopoly on education to push this highly controversial ideology. It's already begun to backfire. Parents have begun demanding answers from school boards and campaigned to unseat their members. Politico reports that even Democratic voters are repelled by these plans, and that the radical efforts have fired up independent.
Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager. And speaking of Dennis, join Dennis for a live virtual cigar night on Thursday, August 19th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Central Time. He'll be joined by fellow talk show host Dan Proft and Sean Thompson for an evening of lively conversation and fine cigars. And you can submit your questions for them to answer. It's just $12. You can order at salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com. And after you pre-order, you can watch the event on your mobile device, computer, or smart TV. Enjoy this conversation for the comfort of your own home, with or without your own cigar, Thursday, August 19th. Order today at salemnow.com. I want to go on to talk to you about the schools and educational system, and I'm going to give someone a chance to go at it with me. Let's go from Albany, New York. He calls himself the Common Man. Thanks for waiting.
No problem. Thank you. There was just a couple of things that I was a little concerned about. One is the whole thing with the election. I hope the listeners understand opinions versus fact. Saying that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him, to me, is equivalent to Hillary Clinton saying the election was stolen from her. There's no proof. There's millions of dollars that's been sunk. I believe if it were true, someone would know about it.
Yeah, a lot of people know. A lot of people know about it. In fact, when I was on, I can't remember which month it was. I did it more than once. I gave 23 anomalies that had to happen for Trump not to win. I mean, I'm there.
I heard them.
Good.
I heard
so
them.
23 happened.
However,
yeah.
Well, evidently they happened.
No, evidently they didn't happen. I mean, you just said opinion from fact. So your opinion is they didn't happen. All 23, miraculously, like one that I've mentioned a lot of times, that Obama and Hillary only lost to Biden in those particular counties that Biden won to defeat Trump. Whoa, that's a good one. How come he didn't do it everywhere? Whoa, I'm up at 3. I'm up at 3 a.m. watching, figuring, well, Trump's got this one. Here's Wisconsin. Here's Michigan. Here's Pennsylvania. What he has to do. All of a sudden, everything shuts down. They're not voting anymore. They're not counting the votes. Excuse me. They actually were voting. Until the next morning, they come up with all the stuff they started hours later. It goes on and on like that. Bellwether counties. Okay, you don't want me to go on? That's okay. Go.
No.
Go.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but with all that you're going to say, at the end of the day, he still lost. They can't prove it was stolen.
Oh, wait. Why did they? Let's have a dialogue. Why did he still lose? You're laughing. No, they declared him the winner, but that doesn't mean he won.
That is correct. And there has been nothing that has occurred since then.
Well, are you watching?
Would take it away.
Well, can I ask you a question? Why are they fighting the audits? Why is the Biden administration having lawyers and others go down to fight the audits, say in Arizona and elsewhere? I
think the people that actually run those states are the ones fighting it. I think that's what's going on.
No, the Biden administration.
They're not needed.
The Biden administration has weighed in against. I don't know of any audits they've agreed to.
Because I don't, I can't answer that as far as Afghanistan goes. Because that's
wait, one topic. Don't go to Afghanistan now.
Like me saying salt and water is the cure for COVID. You can't prove that I'm wrong.
So
you're talking about something you can't prove.
So
and
look,
you can prove what you're saying. Saying he lost is just not.
And you saying Biden won. Look, I get that, and none of the courts wanted to hear any of the evidence, and you're entitled to your opinion. You obviously support the Democrats, the left, whatever, and that's fine. We have people like you, and
believe it or not, I'm actually 100%. I'm so glad you said that. I am actually 100% independent, and I want to say this.
Oh, I wouldn't call what you said independent. I wouldn't call that an independent view. Where you're sure he lost and you're sure Biden won. And Afghanistan, Biden didn't do anything wrong. I wouldn't call.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say.
Well, I thought you were going there.
We never got him there. No, where I was going with Afghanistan. It's not. I mean, at some point, it is what it is. And the fact is, you had 300,000 supposed to be trained soldiers. They didn't do it to. We didn't do that to them. They did it to themselves. As soon as the war started, they dropped their guns. They ran. They did that.
No, we wouldn't keep the air cover. No, it was reported as a fact that we didn't continue the air cover. That was a big part of it. I'm not trying to defend the Afghanis, but I'm just saying that we didn't continue the air power. What would you do? No one's supporting.
At some point, we were going to leave. They were going to have to fight.
Why couldn't we keep a few thousand troops? Why couldn't we keep? No, you're not listening. Why couldn't you keep a few thousand troops there, as I suggested, Dennis has suggested, the Wall Street Journal suggested?
Here you go. I agree. You could have added 4,000 more troops. Guess what? If it was done for another year, another 2 years, another 3 years, at some point, those troops were going to leave.
No. We still have troops in North Korea.
What's happening now.
No. Those troops.
Oh, so you wanted it to continue forever?
It depends on the circumstances. If we can move the world a little bit in our direction, but certain things you get into, and there aren't perfect solutions. But would you have them? The Al Qaeda.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that. There were no perfect solutions.
But this one was a disaster. Are you watching at the airport where they're trying to climb on the airplane to get out? Do you not care about those people?
I agree that those are horrible optics. But maybe if they hadn't decided to run after an airplane, had to grab guns and fought back, they wouldn't be in that situation. That is the truth.
You're blaming the Afghans. Look, I gave it. No, I'm being as honest. You and I don't agree, obviously. So it was their fault.
I understand that we don't agree.
Yeah. Well, I gave you a lot of time, and I appreciate that. So they're running up there, including people who are on our side for all these 20 years, and it was their fault. I got it. I mean, they're part of the responsibility, right? But to say that, it's a horrible scene, he acknowledges that. But, they did it. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I think he agreed with me. They keep a few thousand. Oh, no. Then he said, well, what about 1 year? Okay, not 5 years, not 10 years. What are we still doing in North Korea? It might be in our interest to keep that going. There are places, we can't be the world's policeman, but there are places we can make a difference. Let me know what you think. 1-800-PRAGER 776. I want to get into education. I teach part-time too. Wait till you hear how they know so little about what's going on. The CDC, the World Health Organization, with the COVID, they don't know what they're doing. Nothing has changed. Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis Prager.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: "The right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason." They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy, and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is really it's crucially important.
I'll get to full bore. I opened something up with that call. Let's go to Paul in Plymouth, Minnesota. Paul, you're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark, thank you. I appreciate you subbing. I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
I've got good news and disappointing news.
Go for it.
The good news is that everyone needs to go to frankspeech.com because there's a plethora of solid, factual, credible information regarding how the election was stolen. And I'm disappointed that you don't know that.
Oh, I've heard of that. I've heard of them.
But you need to go there and watch.
Yeah, what's the
Instead
bad?
of watching a movie some night, everyone needs to go to Frank's Speech and watch a couple videos on Frank's Speech because it's all documentable.
What's the bad news? What's the bad news?
Stole the election.
What's the bad news? Okay, I guess it did sound like he had it in any case. Let's see. Oh, yeah, now let's go to George in Westminster, California. You're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
I'm retired Air Force.
Yep.
And the thing that really concerns me right now is the reputation of the United States. If I were an ally, I would not think that we would use our nuclear umbrella to protect them. And so I'm afraid we're going to see a whole bunch of proliferation of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and we left non-nuclear weapons there, too, in big amounts. Thanks for your call. Let's see if we can get some more people in. Paul in Philadelphia, you're on with Mark.
Oh, that was quick. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you.
My comment is it was a typical bonehead Biden move. He's been in politics for 50 years, and he's been on the wrong side of history almost the entire time.
Yeah.
We still have active troops on the Korean Peninsula.
That's what I said, yep.
Relatively peaceful. We still have troops in Japan, which is relatively peaceful. We still have troops in Germany.
Yeah, I left that out.
Throughout Europe,
yeah.
which is relatively peaceful.
No.
Leaving like we did would be no different than if they went into Chicago and told all the Chicago police officers to go home this weekend, you're laid off. It became a nightmare, and it would become a nightmare.
Yeah.
And anybody that didn't see this coming 6 months ago when he took office was just blind.
I thanks for the call, Paul. I agree with you that the way we went out was a mistake, and I blame that on President Trump too. That's all I'm saying. That you're not going to agree with everybody and everything. 1-8 Prager 776 Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager.
This is Albert Mohler for Townhall.com. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times has put forward a horrifyingly honest argument about abortion. The headline it ran was this: the right to an abortion means the right to have it for any reason. They intend for abortion to be available for any reason, at any time, or for no reason. Their focus was a law passed in 2017 by the legislature in Ohio, a law that seeks to prevent abortion on the grounds that the unborn baby has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. The editorial board of the Los Angeles Times is saying that it is wrong to try to protect unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome by such a law. Why is it wrong? Because, says the editorial board, it interferes with what is a greater good than human dignity in the womb. And that means a woman's absolute autonomy, and what the paper claims is her constitutional right to destroy the life within her. Like I said, this editorial is honest. It's also horrifying. I'm Albert Mohler.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is really it's crucially important. The lessons of the last 20 years is that we are peerless. Our military, when it comes to the application of military force at the tactical or even operational level, has no match in the world, especially Operation Anaconda. The October 2001 operation, when we went in there with just a couple of hundred CIA paramilitaries and guys from Delta and from Bragg, and we leveraged 21,000 members of the Northern Alliance, and we took down the Taliban government. That was textbook. Nobody, not even Julius Caesar, not Napoleon, could do it better. But since then, at the strategic level, Kurt, it's been a disaster.
It's been an utter disaster, and frankly, I'm worried about the tactical level. I'm worried that whether or not we still maintain the tactical capabilities that we need for high-intensity combat operations against peer-level competitors like the Chinese, especially, and I write about this in my Monday Town Hall column, Dr. Gorka, especially when you look at the Navy. For nearly 70 years, it has glided on the legacy of the military triumphs in the Pacific theater over the Japanese. And we relied on, we consoled ourselves saying, well, you know, the Chinese technology is getting better. They're getting more and more ships, but we have a naval tradition. You know what? So did the Carthaginians. Okay, the Romans had no navy until they found a Carthaginian warship that had run aground. They copied it, they trained, and they beat the hell out of Carthage. You can find Roman ruins, can't find any Carthaginian ruins.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Essentially, that's inflation. Too many dollars chasing too few goods. This from Reuters. Tyson Foods Incorporated cannot increase prices for chicken and prepared foods fast enough to keep pace with rising costs for raw materials like grain due to Bidenflation. Bidenflation. Say it with me. Tyson increased their prices to their restaurant customers, and you're thinking like, okay, so what? I don't care if they increase it to their restaurant customers. That's for people that are going out. We're not going out to eat anymore. It's not going to affect us. Aha. Yes, it will. As of September 5th, the retail prices are going to rise significantly for the consumers. Can you say thank you, Biden? Can you say thank you, Biden? Guys, I want to tell you, and I don't say this lightly, but make sure you stash some cash at home. Make sure you stash a little more food at home than normal. We're not getting away from inflation, not with this administration in the White House. It's just not going to happen. They are spending like crazy. They're spending our money. The CEO of Tyson Chicken said, and I quote, he said, we've seen unprecedented and accelerating inflation, and we're trying to catch up. We're trying to catch up with that. They can't even catch up with how fast inflation is occurring. That means we're going to pay for it. Thanks, Joe Biden.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
So you were just in Hungary, according to the activist press. You were contributing to the downfall of Western civilization or whatever in a country of 10 million people that secures their borders. Tell us about how all that kind of came to be.
As a father of 4 children, I'm very familiar with lying because kids lie. And when kids lie, they lie in a recognizable way. They tell you a version of the story that's, say, 15 or 20 degrees off the truth. Like, did you eat the Oreos? I just had 1. No, you had 6. Oh, I had 2. Right? So that's how conventional people lie. Totalitarians lie in a very different way. They tell you the inverse of the truth, 180 degrees. You ate the cookies. You ate the cookies. You ate the cookies. And then they arrest you for eating the cookies.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Let's talk about something that's not superb, and that's Sasha, don't call me Mr. Vindman, and his flip-flops and his posing around with, oh, hang on, I've got it here. It's Arnold.
Screw your freedom.
Schwarzenegger. This is radio, Kurt. You got to do more than give me his face.
Well, you want me to say FCC compliant, don't you?
You can try. Yes, try. Please try to.
Always a privilege, always an honor. There's nobody like Dennis. And you can reach me. Follow me on Facebook at Mark Eisler. I don't want to talk. Play the music. Sean said I started too soon, so I can't repeat that. I was so good. What do you want me to do? Mark, I'm back with you again for Dennis Prager. I love you too, Sean. 13th year filling in for Dennis and having this special privilege. You can reach me at markeisler@aol.com or Mark Eisler at Facebook. We did the Afghanistan stuff, and, I see a full board, so I apologize to all of you. But I want to do a little bit, because I'm a teacher also, about my experiences and what's going on. Tonight will be my first day back at school this semester, where chaos seems to reign. We even had teachers screaming at each other last week at our first administrative, whatever meeting you want to call, the students. So watch this. A cancer survivor asked why he had to wear a mask when it hurt his health. He just had it last year, and it looks like he survived it. And another teacher started screaming at him that he should just keep quiet and wear the cloth. Whereupon he got up and said something about Nuremberg trials and I right to my freedom, my free speech, and he left. He was so hurt and insulted. So another teacher got into a shouting match with the teacher who told him to just shut up and wear the cloth. And she said, you got to give him a chance to defend himself. And you wouldn't believe it. I think they were going to have someone come in to break up a fight. So it's just incredible what's going on with COVID. So I want to, let's see, I was going to read you about CNN. Did you see how they got that wrong, Sean? They said they were trying to get DeSantis in Florida, and they said 3 or 4 teachers died, but they failed to mention it was before school even started. I just left that little thing out as if it was because of DeSantis telling him that everybody had to go back in. All fake news. But these COVID rules, that's the point I want to make, have divided Americans in new, unexpected ways. It is back in person with the students, and I'm not sure what to expect tonight. I suspect I will have few students because, like students around the country, they have discovered that there are advantages to online learning. They have access to more possibilities. And people who think like many of us do realize they have other options like PragerU. And they don't have to subject their children to critical race theory or the 1619 Project. And with the new COVID strains, no one really knows what to do. Each day brings new regulations and new knowledge, in part because much of it has become politicized. The World Health Organization, they're clearly politicized, and they're an apology arm of China. And the CDC appears to have no clue. Masks work, masks don't work. Maybe 2 masks. Didn't Fauci say maybe 3, if you trust Fauci? Who needs to be responsible? Fauci does. And maybe go to jail, in my opinion, because of all the harm he's done. Wear them indoors, but not while food is in your mouth. Social distancing anymore? No. We learned that you don't have to have social distancing at the schools anymore. But I thought this virus was more contagious, let alone the ones yet to come, right? But they announced to us, as the principal admitted, that each day brings new regulations. Staff doesn't need to be tested, we were told a week or 2 ago, if they were vaccinated. Nope. Now everybody has to be tested. And that's true by October, whatever the date, 15th or whatever it is. Except, of course, if you're an illegal immigrant at the border, where you don't need masks, you don't need vaccines. That's unbelievable. Now we hear the vaccines are wearing off after a period of months. Sean, what did you get? Which vaccine did you get? You lucky guy, he got Moderna. It's not Moderna. It's not a guy's name, Moderna. It's Moderna. It's an A. What are you doing, Moderna? Like it was Mo from the Three Stooges. But anyway, I got Pfizer. So now they're saying I'm going to need a booster shot. The reason I mentioned that, by the way, I don't remember the exact numbers, but Pfizer might be down to 46%, they said, after 6 months effectiveness, and Moderna is much higher. Let's say it's 77. I don't remember exactly. But will it work against some of the new strains? No one really knows. And why do people who have had COVID need vaccines? Studies seem to show they have far more protection than the vaccines offer. But they also seem to have to show proof where required, like at restaurants in New York and Los Angeles, and I'm sure many more places to come. And why do young people need to wear masks or get vaccinated when it hardly affects them? As Delta infections spiked, COVID cases in schools actually fell, a lesson we learned from England. And what about the side effects from the vaccines? It's not clear. Why not therapeutics? They don't work, we've been told, except for stories from doctors and others where they do work. And what happened to free choice? No, not in this case. And what about the effects of the lockdown? Oh, my God. It wasn't even the virus. It was the lockdown. Thousands and thousands of businesses closing down. There are even reports of children being born during the lockdown having lower IQs. Well, I'm not even talking about the suicides and the depressions and everything else that resulted from the lockdown. And you need a vaccine passport to travel by plane or train within Canada and France. Is this thing not getting out of hand? And the latest, no vaccine, then you may lose your job. And I have a story here that Alan sent me. People are going to lose their job as nurses and others. They're just going to stand tight because they don't want to take the vaccine. That's great. This is I thought this was the country of liberty and freedom. There were protests over it. I'm just the story is too long to read to you, but even though hospitalizations are up statewide, they said in their unit it's not comparable to the first wave of the pandemic. But one thing has stood out, at least in her own experience, for 2 months, every COVID-19 patient she has seen in the emergency room has not been vaccinated. Okay, we get you have some facts on that side, but now they're wearing off. So add that to your list of things that you might want to talk about. Should there be vaccine mandates? Let me know at 1-8-PRAGER-776. And let's go to some of your calls. I think some of these are holdovers. This is interesting. I don't agree with this. Let's go to Don. And, Don, I think Dennis says this sometimes. I was just going to Don, who says we can be policemen all over the world, and his call disappeared. You got to give it a chance sometime. Well, I know we keep you online a long time. David is a judge in Las Vegas. David, you're on with Mark.
Hey, Mark, it's David in Dallas, former judge. Can you hear me okay?
Do we have the punishment room thing? Because it says David in Las Vegas.
I think somebody's got some fat
She is not going to be happy with me. Now, she won't do
Mark,
my screen.
I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick. I know you're sick of Afghanistan, but I'm a 57-year-old guy. I've got 3 kids in college, 1 in high school, and was a state federal prosecutor and a criminal trial judge. Now I do defense work. And I'm looking at this COVID disaster, the border, which I was just down at, and it's 10 times worse than anyone knows, inflation, crime out the wazoo, and now this Afghanistan stuff. And it's, I'm asking myself, I've lived and traveled all over the world, and, I believe if you've got friends, i.e., translators that are putting their life on the line for us for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you take care of them. Yep. What is the reason that we didn't get the folks in Afghanistan that helped us over the years, put their life on the lines? Why the heck didn't we get them out while we had boots on the ground where we could do it safely? What's the explanation for that? Because I've never heard one.
I think it's the bureaucracy, and they took their sweet time. I forget. I read something about that the journal said it too. They could have done this months ago, and they put up their hands or whatever. They didn't care about human lives. It's funny. The one sitting in the State Department, Defense Department, as the caller who served in Afghanistan said, these people are so far removed, they have no clue when they make these decisions. They have no idea what goes on in the trenches. Just like administrators.
Well, I'll tell you
Go ahead.
What I found interesting, because President Bush, ex-President Bush, and I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I don't dislike the guy, but I don't think we should have been in Afghanistan. I wouldn't want my kids deployed there. I think we need to get out. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do that.
That's right.
And he was quiet as a mouse about politics, for 20 years. And he piped up about a month ago and said this is going to be a train wreck. I mean, it's going to be, and it is a train wreck. And you got these poor people that helped us trying to, open doors and get on airplanes and, blocking the runway and stuff. And I just feel for them. Because, is the Taliban evil? Yeah. Are they going to mutilate women, girls? Yeah. I mean, all that's going to happen. Do I think that it's our job to fix their country? No, I don't.
Gotcha. Let me know what you think. 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Remember, I said they're going to borrow and spend a lot of money. Now, when the tax increases come up, this is going to be to borrow and spend enormous amounts of money, force inflation up without addressing even the safety net needs. Forget about defense, which they're not spending any money on either, right?
Right.
And then it's ushering in its chaos, a sort of left-wing flavored chaos. And I think it's because they don't have the votes and they don't really have the plan to do anything else.
Now, you know Joe Biden and you know Bernie Sanders. Is Joe Biden in charge of this, or has Bernie Sanders just been deferred to?
Yeah, I think this is sort of policy by default. What is it we can do that we can tell the activist base they should like? I don't think at the end of the day they're going to be satisfied either, and then we'll do that. I kind of think that's what's happening. I say I'm not trying to, because I don't see any other logic behind it. I mean, again, there are basic needs that need to be addressed in the social safety net system. There's a whole lot of things that need to be done. And then I look at the tax increases. You're right about the death tax. That's going to slam. I chaired the Small Business Committee for 4 years. All it does is make small businesses and farms impossible to pass on the next generation. The last
and
time,
houses.
you know how much money we raised from the death tax? $20 billion a year.
Wow. It's just not worth the candle to destroy the American dream for so many people.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Tucker, you mentioned early here that the country just as a population has nearly tripled since you started in journalism. Can you talk about that? Because you make that point so profoundly earlier that, hey, this country has nearly tripled in size, yet we have like a fraction of the freedom. How did that happen?
Well, one is a product of the other. I mean, big systems don't work very well. Ask anybody who served in the U.S. Army. Every veteran, Vietnam-era veteran, for example, you go over to Vietnam, you fight a ridiculous war, you see people die, you come back, and you still love America. I've never met anyone who served in the military, including my own dad during that time, who doesn't love America, truly love America. But if they're on, every one of them will tell you exactly the same thing, which is, the military is a tough environment as much as, we support it, we love it, because it's just too big. And so the decisions that any big organization makes tend to be, there are a lot of unwise decisions. Maybe they get the biggest things right, but the details are hard to pull off. You can't retain your fine motor skills at scale. You just can't. I mean, it's a well-known, it's basically a physics principle. Many business books have been written about this.
Yes.
So the bigger your country gets, the harder it is to manage, the harder cohesion is to pull off, the more likely you are to destroy the natural environment, for one thing. I mean, there's a reason that, very few people go on vacation in China. They go on vacation in Switzerland or Barbados or small places. Small is better. I feel no threat whatsoever from my local retailer. I see Amazon as a real threat to my freedom. And the difference is not simply because, Jeff Bezos is a worse person than Mr. Kim behind the counter down the street.
Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager. As the death toll rises following the 7.2 magnitude earthquake in Haiti, this weekend, the Salem Radio Network, parent company of Dennis's show, is making an effort to rush emergency food to children and families cut off from normal food supplies through our friends at Food for the Poor. If you would like to donate to this emergency campaign today, please visit our network news website, srnnews.com. That's srnnews.com. And just click on the Give Food, Give Hope banner, and thank you. I got to follow up with what Alan said. As you know, August is fundraising month for PragerU with over 5 billion views. PragerU has been educating college and high school students all over the world. And now PragerU is reaching grammar and junior high school kids with new PragerU kids content. Education got us into this mess. Education is the only way out. We need to support Dennis and his terrific team. This week, your contribution will be matched by a generous donor. So go to PragerU.com to donate or call 833-PragerU, PragerU.com, or call 833-PragerU. It's an unbelievable, worthy cause. By the way, Sean gives me and William gives me breaking news. Biden cancels Camp David trip to speak about Afghanistan amid widespread criticism. President Joe Biden will cut short his trip to Camp David to address the nation. Wasn't this obvious? Shouldn't he have done it yesterday? Oh, but he needed all the criticism of his strategy to exit the nation at the end of the month. It's unbelievable. I don't have to read the whole story. We've been going over it. But this is unbelievable that they needed the criticism first before they realized, not that it matters what he says. He's reading from cue cards, and it's not even him probably. And they'll blame it on Trump, and they'll blame it on the Afghanis. None of it matters. Being on the left means you never have to say you're sorry, right? We know that. All right, let's see. I'll get to some people who disagree with me, but let's go to Tom in Venice, California.
Hey, Mark, listen, we need to resist any kind of lockdown. This is so important. You heard about that surfer that was, arrested last year. He was doing fine on the water. What did they do? They threw him in jail, among a bunch of other people. This is nonsense. We gotta think about this. What do they do about the treatments? We have ivermectin. They won't allow us to use that. Mark, I tell you, I'm just going crazy about this, and people need to resist this kind of stuff. These lockdowns, it didn't work last time, and it's not going to work this time.
And here in California, I drive and I see all these stores closed. I mentioned once before my favorite pie place, shouldn't be eating it anyway, but this pie come $4.20. I'm thinking it doesn't matter anymore. Both places, 40 years in business, gone. You can go up and down, the the highways here and major arteries and see places closed down. It's hard to believe. And then, of course, we didn't even get the homeless. Underneath the freeway overpasses, you see all the homeless. So we substituted open businesses maybe for homeless. I mean, I shouldn't equate the two. But it's a disaster out here in California and across the country. We do have to resist the lockdown. And by the way, Larry Ella is going to be my guest in the next half hour. If Larry were to lose, which I don't think is going to happen, do you realize the tyranny of people like Newsom and the other leftists when they get the power and have the power? If he wasn't defeated, do you realize how terrible it would be? Where do you live? You live in Venice. You know what I'm talking about.
I know. The vaccinated and the unvaccinated people need to come together and stop this mandate because it's ridiculous. If we didn't have treatment, if we didn't have, I'm not vaccinated, so I'm using the treatment. It's been beautiful for me. For 6 months, I've been prophylactic, ivermectin, traveling, never got positive. I'll tell you what, if we didn't have this stuff, I'd say, okay, let's look at it. But we have it, and they won't let us use it.
Hold on, because I see Ruby. Sean, let's put them both on line 2. I don't want to mess that up. Ruby disagrees with it. She thinks, I think it's a she, should be a vaccine mandate. Go for it. And Tom is on with you who thinks that it's crazy.
Totally. There's a time and place for everything. Right now is not the time to mess around and say, my body, my choice. This is concerning the whole human race surviving this pandemic, which we don't have control of it. It's not done with us, and people are out there oblivious to this. They want to go on with their lives. They want to be in control. Well, they don't know how to be patient and set it out. And You know, they need to mandate the vaccines.
Hold on, Tom. What do you say?
We have a choice. We have a choice, number one. Number two, this is experimental. This is in trial till the end of 2022.
So what? The pandemic's not experimental.
Why I should be forcing myself or any of my family members with a dangerous, potentially long-term dangerous vaccine. When we have treatment,
we're in the midst of danger. So where's the choice? Take the leap. Burn or jump.
Hey, do you know that 45,000 people died within 3 days of taking the...
I think you're being a big baby. I think there's a lot of big whiners out there. Life's a gamble, Russian roulette. We don't have a choice. You want to say the human race, we do not have a choice. No, there's no other option. I'm alive. I took it. I got the vaccine.
I know exactly what it's like.
Not going to live forever anyway.
Hey, listen, they cannot mandate it, okay? They cannot mandate it right now because I'll tell you what, the federal government will always give you a choice between vaccination and testing, okay? So that proves right there that
they vaccinate school children. They vaccinate school children. They always have. So what's new?
That's because we let them. That's the most dangerous thing to do. The most dangerous thing to do.
Too bad. We don't live forever anyway. We do not. We're not immortal.
Okay.
But we'll live a lot longer if we can beat this COVID. Look around, man. You're in denial.
We have ivermectin. We have hydroxychloroquine. We have choices in America. You know, since when are we supposed to be forced to experimental gene therapy? It's not even a vaccine. Okay, you won't even. Will you agree that it's a vaccine or not?
That it's a vaccine?
Yeah.
I took it, and I'm against vaccines, but I took it because I realize I see the forest for the trees. I see what it is. It's not in. It's over us. Okay, we don't have. We're powerless over this.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. I just wanted to hear both sides. And not only that, Sean, I'm getting paid. I didn't have to do the last minute or two. I just had to listen to the two of them. I have strong opinions, by the way, that it shouldn't be mandated. This is a country of freedom and liberty. What happened to that? Where are you guys going? Let me know what you think. 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Now, when it comes to inflation, I want you to think of this. This is an easy way for you to understand or to remember what inflation is if this is a topic that's somewhat new to you. It's when too many dollars, so you have tons of money chasing too few goods. There's not enough stuff to buy, in other words. Or think of Black Friday. You know how all the stores try to get you in the stores during Christmas season, Thanksgiving, Christmas season, Black Friday. You want to buy all this stuff, and they always advertise this one laptop or this one television set that's going to be sitting right smack in the middle of the department store, and they only have X amount before they're absolutely gone. And obviously their trick is to get you in the store so you can buy other stuff. If you're in California, it's so you can shoplift other stuff. But in other places around the nation, it's so you can buy other stuff. So you walk into this store, you get into, well, you don't walk in on Black Friday. You bum rush that store, or you set in line. You have the money in your hands. You're ready to go. You've got all of this cash you've been saving, and you're just ready to go. You're like, I'm going to get my Christmas shopping done today. You pull up, you see the line, and you're like, wow, everybody else, the 200 people standing in line in front of me have the same amount of money or cash that I do, but there's only 32 of those televisions. Essentially, that's inflation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I got to get your response to those neocons, neoliberals, who are now trying to convince us, the Brookings institutions, the AEIs, to double down and to send even more troops to Afghanistan.
Well, look, Mitt Romney got out there. That's fine. Why don't he send one of his 72 sons, none of whom served in the military? I am sick of them squandering not only our treasure, but our blood on useless, poorly thought out military campaigns. I was all for going in Afghanistan and wreaking unholy vengeance on the people who murdered Americans. But then what happened, Dr. Gorka? A complete strategic tail chase for 20 years.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Remember, I said they're going to borrow and spend a lot of money. Now, when the tax increases come up, this is going to be to borrow and spend enormous amounts of money, force inflation up without addressing even the safety net needs. Forget about defense, which they're not spending any money on either, right?
Right.
And then it's ushering in its chaos, a sort of left-wing flavored chaos. And I think it's because they don't have the votes and they don't really have the plan to do anything else.
Now, you know Joe Biden and you know Bernie Sanders. Is Joe Biden...
Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager. After a year plus of lockdowns and mandates that crippled America's economy, our leaders in Washington, D.C. still haven't gotten the message. Our small business owners are hurting, while their big global competitors thrive. What's Washington, D.C.'s response? More talk of mandates, unprecedented government spending and tax increase. The same misguided policies of President Carter that led to soaring gas prices, record inflation, and job losses. Looks like we're repeating that now. Only one organization in America is fighting the war on small business being waged by President Biden and the Democrats in Congress. Job Creators Network. If you own a small business, join the growing army of JCN members now and learn how to become a small business advocate. The American people love and trust our small business owners, but they need to hear from you, hear your stories, your struggles. That's why Dennis and myself urge all small business owners listening and friends of small business too to go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com now and become a member. That's jobcreatorsnetwork.com. The fight's ours to win if we fight it. And Sean, do we know if Larry is there yet or not? If not, I can... Yeah, well, what is she doing chatting with him? Well, I'm the one who's supposed to be talking. Well, we'll wait for that. Sean, I think if Larry wins, we can go to the French Laundry, and you'll pay, right, Sean? Sure. He said sure. I don't think he knows how much it is. that is pretty expensive. Do they take Bitcoin? You should be smart enough not to using Bitcoin in any sense of the word. I wouldn't trust it, I'll tell you that. These guys are worried, by the way. Well, maybe Larry will say that. Newsom in his last interview was just really upset and defensive and negative. So I think this is a real possibility. We'll talk to Larry about that. And I apologize. A lot of you want to talk about the vax mandate is ridiculous. I don't know if we'll have time today. Let me just read some of your calls while we're waiting for Larry. COVID mandate is ridiculous by Joe in Phoenix. Most people survive. Richard in Waterford, Minnesota, taking ivermectin, recovered immediately. Jeff in Columbus, Ohio, family bullied into getting vaccine, and someone else no to COVID vaccine mandate. Let me welcome my special guest that I'm promoting. Okay, let's hold on for a minute till we're having some technical issues there, and we'll let you know. Let's see. Just the whole idea that in this country you have to have a mandate is beyond belief. What happened to our freedom? What happened to our ability to make our own decisions? It boggles the mind. But in any case, I got your point of view out there. Now he's there. Okay, let me welcome him. There he is right now. My guest today is Larry Elder. My sincere hope that he is the next governor of the state of California. And when he is elected, you will see the beginning of a revolution in this country. That's why this is so important to all of you out there. Because if he wins here, we can win everywhere. And our values will be spread across the country. Welcome, Governor-elect Larry Elder.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it from your lips.
You know, I tried last week. Our listeners don't know. I said to you, am I the first one to call you governor? I said, no, you're not, but I don't want to disappoint you. When you were on with me last Monday, we talked individually about your mom, Viola, your dad, Randy, and your brother, Kirk.
Right.
Sum up for our listeners today what your family gave to you that made you the person you are today.
Well, it's just the root. My mother and my father always believed in hard work, always believed in education. They always believed that I could be what I wanted to be if I applied myself. And both of them had reasons to feel otherwise. My mother was born in the Jim Crow South, as was my dad. My dad was kicked out of the house by his mom at the age of 13. And if anybody wanted to be angry at America and say America is a racist hellhole, it's my parents. But they didn't say that. Nor did people of that generation say that. They all believed that things were far better for us than they were for them, and they would not tolerate us whining and moaning about what somebody has done to us. My mother always told me nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission. So I've always believed that. I recall when I was a kid, I was 7 years old. I know that because that was the last year we were at our first house, and my mother had an illustrated book of all the presidents, from George Washington to the then incumbent, which was Dwight Eisenhower. And she said, after we went through all of them, all their highlights and lowlights, she said, someday, Larry, you can be in this book if you wanted to. Oh, wow. And then it never occurred to me that she was wrong. I never aspired to being a president, but it never occurred to me that she was wrong. So I always believed in myself. I went to college, I went to law school, worked for a big law firm, started a small business, went into TV and radio, started writing a column, published a bunch of books, none of which really surprises me because I always felt that if I just worked hard and kept focused and did not get distracted by nonsense.
You mentioned radio. We got to go to that break. Hold on. Mark Eisler with Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I have campaign expenditure limitations. Gavin Newsom does not. He can raise and spend an unlimited amount of money. And shortly after it was obvious I was going to get into the race, the union, SEIU union, gave him $5 million for the anti-recall side. And just a couple of days ago, the teachers union, the largest funder of his campaign, gave him an additional $1.8 million. It is estimated he's going to raise a minimum of $50 million, maybe as much as $75 million to defeat me. You were praising my courage. Let me just say something about that. I get that a lot, and I have to push back because I'm not storming the beaches of Normandy. Unlike my father, I was never a Marine. Unlike my older brother, I was never a member of the Navy. Like my little brother, I was never a member of the Army. I did not serve. And about all the things I've ever done in my life, that's probably the thing that I regret the most, that I didn't give back a few years to my country. So this is a small sacrifice. I'm losing a little bit of money, well, actually a lot of money compared to my net worth. And of course, nobody's lived a pure life, and anything and everything I've ever done will be exposed and will be twisted. And I know that I'll be assuming that. But this is a small price to pay for a country that I love so much and for a state that I love so much.
Well, you know, that's why you are who you are. You have perspective. You were talking about your father. You've been on this program before talking about your father. And when you've lived that kind of a life and you see what real sacrifice looks like, it's natural for you to do things that other people say, well, that's brave or that's heroic. You just think, well, what are you talking about? This is basic stuff. I've been living in a country that allowed me to succeed and to say what I want. How can I not fight for that? And again, I think sometimes things have to get very bad before people finally wake up.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
I think it's a very crafty strategy. It's the reverse of the Reagan strategy. Expand the entitlement culture to the point that it bankrupts the United States and we have to withdraw from the world.
But I mean, look, the interest on the federal debt last year was about $380 billion, with treasuries at 2%, right? So what happens when the Fed jacks up interest rates, as they will, in order to fight inflation? So if it goes to 4%, it's going to cost us another $400 billion to service the debt. The entire discretionary budget is about what, 1.7 trillion? So that's more than a quarter of the entire discretionary budget.
Yeah, I had a senior Trump administration official tell me last night, the only way out will be to devalue the currency. You get to do that once, and you're no longer the reserve currency.
They're going to debase. Well, it is debasing the currency. This is, I think, to show that they can do something big and beat the Republicans. I mean, I don't want to be uncharitable. And yeah, there's a lot of bad policies. You've talked about the death tax, and you're right. They're eliminating work for all these welfare programs. So we're going to be treated to millions and millions of able-bodied people getting all this, these benefits and not working because it doesn't make any sense for them to work.
No, it's economically rational to stay home, especially when they extended the rent moratorium. They screwed small landlords everywhere in the United States, but they also increased the incentive not to go back to work. You don't have a rent bill to pay.
Mark Eisler sitting in for Dennis Prager. Although I'm worried that I won't say Mark Eisler sitting in for Larry Elder. I could make that mistake in no time. And by the way, you guys out there, yeah, Larry's my friend, but if you really knew him, it would be so easy to vote for him. He's this incredible human being. And what you would say to minorities and everybody else, as you were saying before we had to go to the break, about be your best and just work hard, my God, that message alone is worth everything.
And Mark, as I've been talking to minority media, and of course they're distrustful of anybody who's a Republican, let alone a black Republican, I said to them, look, aren't you tired of the fact that 75% of black boys in California cannot read at state levels of proficiency, and those levels are already low? Aren't you tired that half of all third graders cannot? I went to Crenshaw High School, as you know, Mark. Only 2% of kids at Crenshaw High School right now are math proficient. The polls show that black and brown parents living in the inner city want school choice. The teachers union, the biggest supporter of Gavin Newsom, is adamantly opposed to school choice because the teachers are not automatic union members, and they don't get those automatic dues. So what's stopping the number one route from going from poverty to the middle class, which is graduate from high school? The Democrats that you routinely pull the lever for year after year after year. Why? And I can tell that when I make that argument, I'm not saying that all of a sudden they become Reagan Republicans, but they do reconsider their blind allegiance to the Democratic Party. And then we're talking about crime and the rise in homelessness in California. The way Gavin Newsom shut down the state while ignoring science. His own kids were enjoying in-person, in-school private education while denying the already behind California kids another year of in-person education. And then we have this housing shortage to the point where the average price of a home in California, $800,000, 150% more than the average price of a home outside of California because of the environmental extremists. They have a stranglehold over my opponent and over Sacramento for the last 20 or 30 years. It's got to change, and when I get there, it's going to change.
And you kind of said it in a few sentences, what would your message be? But I think you've kind of gotten it out a little bit. How's the campaign going?
So so far, so good. I have officially, Mark, been a politician for a month and 2 days, and in 19 days we raised over $5 billion. It's even more than that. That's more than any of my Republican rivals, with the exception of one who's been self-funding. And Gavin Newsom is scared. He knows that people know me. I've got high name recognition in California. I've been on radio 27 years. I'm in every major market in California, from Sacramento down to San Diego. I've been writing a syndicated column, which is carried in the LA Daily News, which, by the way, has endorsed me. It's carried in the Orange County Register, which has endorsed me. And he's in trouble. For the first time, he's mentioned my name and said this is a Republican takeover. He's dropped one talking point, though, Mark. He no longer calls it a takeover by white supremacists. He's dropped that. He's dropped that one.
Hey, take that, because I don't trust these guys at all. There's nothing they won't do or nothing they won't say, which is scary, which is why so many people have to go out and vote, right? You have to win by enough so there's no way they can cheat.
That's right. There's two steps on the ballot. The first is, do you want this man recalled? And that takes 50% plus one. The answer is yes. The second is, who do you replace him? But it doesn't matter who the people are who to replace him if 50% plus one do not vote to remove him. So I've urged all my Republican rivals to remind everybody why we're here, that it's not an anti-Democrat thing. It's not an anti-independent thing. It's an anti-Gavin Newsom thing for all the reasons that I mentioned.
And I, as you know, I send you some stuff. I follow these things. There were a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents that joined this recall and have had it with what's going on in the state. I mean, I mentioned before you got on the homeless encampments, the crime. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happened to California.
It is. Barbara Boxer just got mugged the other day in Oakland, and the police chief of Oakland just days earlier complained about the defund the police movement and how much money is being diverted out of his police department, and shortly after that, Barbara Boxer got mugged. Hell, Gavin Newsom got attacked by a mentally ill homeless guy just a few months ago. The only reason he wasn't hurt is because he had a security detail. How many of us have a security detail? That's why I'm asking people to go to electelder.com, throw something in the tip jar, because he can raise and spend an unlimited amount of money and is doing so. So far, the teachers union, the public sector unions, Hollywood, big tech, have given this man $50 million, and he's probably going to spend even more. And that's why Joe Biden has now commented on the recall election. Kamala Harris has. Elizabeth Warren has cut a commercial for him. She didn't mention his record on crime, on homelessness, on the anti-scientific way he shut down the state. She just talked about how this is a Republican takeover.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I have an update on Senator Boxer. She didn't just say, "I'm surprised that they mugged the grandmother." She said, "I can't believe he didn't call me senator."
Wow.
You know what?
Yeah, I guess the person who mugged her is not really following politics all that closely. Honestly, this is insane. And this narrative that the police are out to get you, they're engaging in systemic racism. Yeah. Gavin Newsom has overseen the release of 20,000 felons early. Many of them are violent offenders, and statistically, they're likely to reoffend. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I remember years ago, Bill Bennett saying, when he was drug czar, education secretary, saying, "When I go to the inner city, what's the first thing they tell me? They want more police." And these guys are funding it, and then they wonder why crime is going up.
81%, according to a major poll of blacks, say they want the police manpower to remain the same or to be even higher. Tupac Shakur, shortly before he died, said, "We need the police more than anybody else." Now, you can't call him an Uncle Tom or a sellout. The number one job of government is to protect people and property, and this governor is not doing it.
Well, and I know you said this, but say it again. How can people help you?
They can go to electelder.com, electelder.com. Again, he can raise and spend an unlimited amount of money. I have expenditure limitations, but there are also ways that millionaires and billionaires, to quote Bernie Sanders, can also support my candidacy through a separate recall committee. So we're going to be able to amass a war chest that I hope will be able to at least put up a fair fight, because, as you know, big state, 40 million people here, heavy TV, heavy radio, and we're now starting our TV and radio ads. We started those a few days ago, and they'll be going between now and September 14th.
And I saw one of them. It's just terrific. I get emails from you all the time, not just because it's me. You guys have a great campaign going, and you can't say this. I can say this. The other guys need to get out of this race, because imagine how they would feel. And don't react to this, Larry. Imagine how they would feel if we lost the governorship by 1% or 2%. They got to let their egos go and get the most viable person. And you would do the same. I believe that. If you saw you were losing, you'd say, "You know what? What's the point? We got to save California."
Well, that's right. There's also a Republican on the recall side, and he's not a serious candidate in my opinion. But he is. I said Republican. I meant Democrat. Not a serious candidate in my opinion. But he does have some degree of name recognition because he's a popular YouTube figure. How catastrophic is it to recall Gavin Newsom? But because the Republicans did not align behind one candidate, ideally myself, that this Democrat slips in. That would be a nightmare scenario. I don't believe that's going to happen. But you're quite right. If that were to get serious, then we have to have a come to Jesus talk with all these Republicans to get behind the guy that's most likely to win, and that's me.
Or in my case, a come to Moses talk. You got one little segment left, right, Larry? Hold on, Marcus. They're sitting in for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Now, when it comes to inflation, I want you to think of this. This is an easy way for you to understand or to remember what inflation is if this is a topic that's somewhat new to you. It's when too many dollars, so you have tons of money chasing too few goods. There's not enough stuff to buy, in other words. Or think of Black Friday. You know how all the stores try to get you in the stores during Christmas season, Thanksgiving, Christmas season, Black Friday. You want to buy all this stuff, and they always advertise this one laptop or this one television set that's going to be sitting right smack in the middle of the department store, and they only have X amount before they're absolutely gone. And obviously their trick is to get you in the store so you can buy other stuff. If you're in California, it's so you can shoplift other stuff. But in other places around the nation, it's so you can buy other stuff. So you walk into this store, you get into, or well, you don't walk in on Black Friday. You bum rush that store, or you set in line. You have the money in your hands. You're ready to go. You've got all of this cash you've been saving, and you're just ready to go. You're like, I'm going to get my Christmas shopping done today. You pull up, you see the line, and you're like, wow, everybody else, the 200 people standing in line in front of me have the same amount of money or cash that I do, but there's only 32 of those televisions. Essentially, that's inflation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I got to get your response to those neocons, neoliberals, who are now trying to convince us, the Brookings institutions, the AEIs, to double down and to send even more troops to Afghanistan.
Well, look, I Mitt Romney got out there. That's fine. Why don't he send one of his 72 sons, none of whom served in the military? I am sick of them squandering not only our treasure, but our blood on useless, poorly thought out military campaigns. I was all for going in Afghanistan and wreaking unholy vengeance on the people who murdered Americans. But then what happened, Dr. Gorka? A complete strategic tail chase for 20 years.
You know, my special guest is Larry Elder, running for governor of California. And one of the things you just made me realize, Larry, is that it's important to have a sense of humor in all of life anyway, let alone as a politician. Reagan had it. But that makes people endeared to you, so I got to tell them this story. So the ballots came out the other day, and I wrote to you that you've been great in your public appearances, and I'd vote for Newsom's recall, but I still wasn't sure who I'd vote for in number 2. And do you remember what you said to me?
I said, me neither.
and that's part of the American people love people who don't take themselves so seriously. Yes, they got to do the job seriously, but they understand what's important in life, and I think people have to understand that's what you're different than everybody else. We've got this unbelievable chance to make such a huge difference.
You know, and some of the things have been thrown at me since they've begun to take me seriously, Mark. It just make me laugh. The other day, I get a call from a reporter who asked me about a temporary restraining order that was filed against me by a woman in Santa Monica because I was stalking her.
Yeah, right.
Turns out it was a guy named Larry Elder, who was different birth date, different guy. And then another one was a joke that I told 27 years ago when I did stand-up for a couple of days at a comedy club, and it was mocking F. Lee Bailey's use of the N-word. So a black radio station takes a part of that, and the premise is that Larry Elder is a self-loathing black man who says a lot of negative things about black people, when in fact the premise was F. Lee Bailey was enjoying using the N-word. He was a covert racist. That was the premise. And I said anybody with an IQ 2 points above plant life would understand the premise of that joke. KTLA wanted to interview me about it. I said, bring it on, please. And then they realized how silly they were, and they didn't do the interview.
And people got to realize that you never back down, and that's what they're going to get if they vote for Larry Elder. And it's not just the sense of humor, it's just all of who you are. It's so special. It's so unbelievable. Oh, I wanted to mention this. Last Monday when you're on, I mentioned that even my mom thought your mom was the Supreme Court justice when you called her that every Friday. And tell everybody again that story, that the guy who tried to look her up or something.
Yeah, I refer to my mom as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I just refer to that jokingly. My mom has 1 year of college at a black school, which for a woman of her age and race, that's almost like having a PhD, but she's never gone to law school, for crying out loud. So somebody looked up all 50 states of all the Chief Justices of all the 50 states to find out when she was a Chief Justice, and wrote me a long letter saying, I can't find which state she was a Chief Justice, which one?
Larry,
my goodness.
They have no sense of humor. And we're going to have not just the sense of humor, but we're going to elect you the next governor of California. Where do people go? Say that again.
ElectElder.com, electelder.com.
I can't tell you what a privilege it is, not only when I say that filling in for you or Dennis, but to have this choice, what you're going through now, day and night. I know what it's like to be a politician, and sticking your neck out. It just matches everything you've done all your life. Unbelievable courage.
Well, thank you. I basically prepared for this all my life. I just didn't know it.
You got it. The next governor of California, Larry Elder. Mark Eisler for Dennis Prager.